A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Citizen Live at 1. I'm Janet Bobo. The University of Nairobi student David Ochieng, accused of raping a 20-year-old fellow student, is now facing fresh indecent assault charges. The accused, who was arraigned before Nairobi resident magistrate Miriam Mugere, pleaded not guilty to the charges against him and has since been released on a cash bail of 100,000 shillings in order to be able to attend other cases lodged against him.
It was revealed during the court session that the accused David Ochieng Osano has allegedly been involved in a number of criminal activities within and outside the precincts of the University of Nairobi. The cases are before various courts in Nairobi, but his alleged raping of a 20-year-old student in one of the female hostels along State House Road has seen him in serious trouble with the law. Ochieng, commonly known as Osano, is alleged to have an extended stay at the University of Nairobi, despite his 4-year study session having elapsed some time ago, due to his involvement in the student leadership at the university. Ochieng had previously been charged with malicious damage of property in Kibera law courts before being released on bond. Relatives and friends of the accused have been warned by the court to desist from intimidating witnesses. The directive coming after complaints by a number of witnesses registered at the Central Police Station, Nairobi. Ochieng has, however, been released on a cash bail of 100,000 Kenya shillings as he was due to attend some other case in a different court. The case will come up for mention on the 19th of August, but hearing will be on the 4th of September. Alex Kubasu for Citizen Live at 1.
President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday arrived in Washington, D.C. for the U.S.-Africa Summit. On arrival, he attended a gathering of Pan-African leaders to honor Ambassador Andrew Young, who for decades championed key partnerships between the U.S. and Africa. President Kenyatta's visit is expected to focus on strengthening ties between the U.S. and Kenya in trade, capital investment, infrastructure, energy, and security. During the summit, he's scheduled to hold a number of high-level meetings with chief executives of major U.S. companies that are keen in investing or expanding existing investments in Kenya. He's also set to meet a select group of business people who have investment proposals at a forum convened by the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Further afield as well, Israel has announced the withdrawal of its troops from the Gaza Strip. The move came moments before the latest truce, brokered by Egypt, came into force this morning. The 3-day truce is expected to suspend Israel and Islamist Hamas attacks. Abdirahman Abdullahi now reports.
Gaza was calm but tense this morning as Israel and Hamas again embarked on a 3-day ceasefire, and Israeli forces began withdrawing from the Palestinian territory. A month-long campaign. A sigh of relief it was, as Gazans ventured out onto the streets once again, as calm slowly sneaked in. If history is anything to go by, no ceasefire in this conflict has lasted more than a day. This 72-hour ceasefire remains fragile. Just minutes before the truce came into effect, air raid sirens sounded in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, as Hamas militants fired a barrage of rockets at central Israel. Israeli forces also staged raids in Gaza shortly before the truce began. Israeli officials said all troops are now in the process of being pulled out from Gaza, but vows they will be deployed back in case of any attacks. Gaza officials say the war has killed 1,834 Palestinians, most of them civilians. Israel says 64 of its soldiers and 3 civilians have been killed since the fighting began on 8th of July. Efforts to cement the ceasefire into lasting one could prove difficult, with the side far apart on key demands and each rejecting the other's legitimacy. However, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has welcomed the ceasefire, and he called on both sides to hold talks in Egypt as soon as possible. Citizen TV.
Deputy President William Ruto says the government will in this financial year construct more technical training institutes so as to promote knowledge-based economy that will improve national prosperity and global competitiveness across the country, as Hassan Farah reports.
The government is planning to construct 60 technical training institutes across the country this financial year. Speaking during the opening of the International Youth Fellowship held at the Mainham International School in Nairobi, Deputy President William Ruto said another 100 technical institutes will be established in the next financial year to meet the education needs of the youth.
We are beginning the first 60 we are going to build this year. The next 100 is going to be done next year. The next 100 is going to be done the year after.
Ruto also said that establishing more technical institutes will go a long way in ensuring quality, equity, and reliability in the delivery of post-secondary education within the institutions.
And we believe that with this infrastructure development, we will lower the cost of doing business in our country. We will attract more investors to our country.
The Deputy President, who was flagged by Chairman of the Forum, Pastor Oxo Park, further urged students in technical institutions to access loans from the Higher Education Loans Board, as it will help them concentrate on their studies. Hassan Farah, Citizen Live at 1.
A legislator says the recent ranking of President Uhuru Kenyatta as the third best performing president in sub-Saharan Africa will greatly enhance trade relations between Kenya and Western nations. Kirinyaga Central MP Gashoki Getare says misinformation and falsehoods peddled to the Obama administration are to blame for the reported cold relations between Kenya and the U.S. Speaking at Kaini Market in Kirinyaga County, Gatari said that Kenya's invite to the U.S.-Africa Summit in Washington is a good sign and urged the government to take the chance to strengthen trade relations with the U.S. Gatari also urged Quad politicians to focus on working with the government and abandon the push for a referendum.
This is a new beginning, because you have seen that we have started even mending our relationship with the U.S. They had a lot of misinformation about our president, but time is proving that our president can work.
Let's now cross over to Kendago Obadia, who joins us on phone actually. He's at the Parliament buildings to give us some details on what's happening there at the moment. Kendago, you mentioned to me earlier it's been a very quiet day. A lot of crucial meetings have been cancelled. What can you tell us?
Good afternoon to you, Janet. It's true that both houses of Parliament today had committees, but the committee that we were focusing on mainly was the Labour Committee of the Senate that was set to meet with Kusetu, that is in regards to the removal of Francis Atwoli as a board member in the NSSF. And that meeting was supposed to kick off at 11 this morning, but then the chairman of the committee sent an apology saying that he would not be there. So would be absent also was the vice chair. And so they had to cancel the meeting, and that meeting is coming up next week. They will be looking into issues that and circumstances under which the Labour Minister Kazungu Kambi decided to remove Atwoli from that board. That's an issue that is now in court, and Parliament is also trying to deliberate on it and see whether there was enough reason for Atwoli, who has since moved to court, to be removed from that committee. Well, that will be coming up next week. We also have the security committee sitting at the moment, but that's a closed-door meeting. They have a bunch of issues to deal with. That's the matter that is going on in Parliament today. We'll be looking forward to an eventful afternoon to see what will be happening in the afternoon session, because Parliament sittings begins at 2:30. Back to you, Janet.
All right, Kendago, thank you for that update. Certainly will be an interesting afternoon. We'll be following those proceedings and bringing you the details in our subsequent newscasts. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Keriako Tobiko, has expressed concern about investigations into Lamu County land allocations being done separately by the police and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Tobiko has written to the Inspector General of Police, David Kimayo, and the EACC Chairman, Mumo Matemu, on the same, advising the two to form a joint investigation team to avoid conflicting findings. This comes in the wake of parallel lists of shame on the land saga by current and former lands ministers Charity Ngilu and James Orengo.
President Uhuru Kenyatta's directive that title deeds for 500,000 acres of land be revoked in Lamu County on reasons they were acquired fraudulently brew a storm, with former lands minister James Orengo coming to his defense amid pressure to have him prosecuted for allegedly overseeing the illegal issuance of the land and also being a beneficiary of the same. State House termed Orengo as a bogus reformer and fake liberator who was blackmailing the government.
This happened under his watch because LAPSET was squarely on our part of the coalition. It is very shameful, very embarrassing that this happened. I would never have imagined that these answers were going to be given by President Uhuru Kenyatta, honestly. So for me, don't talk about which hand. You need to ask yourself, did we give so much land to few people at the expense of the poor people of Lamu? Ask that question.
And in this list, you will not find Honorable Alwale's and Alwale's name there. You will not find the name of the Imam Mohammed's name there. But you will find the name of the Deputy President in this list. Of land, not one piece of land, but several pieces of land that when I was a Minister for Lands, I revoked. Very prime public land.
It is the happenings at Athi House that are the subject of a double investigation, with Police and Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission keen on unearthing the truth behind illegal land allocations. But the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is opposed to these separate investigations, arguing it may well lack proper coordination and end up jeopardizing the findings. The DPP Keriako Tobiko says parallel investigations may result in conflicting findings and hence it may end up creating more controversy than shedding any light. Former Lands Minister Orengo defends his tenure, saying he was ready to account for the land transactions and went further to say he had stopped major allocations in Lamu.
I've been looking for a smoking gun. What did Orengo do? Because at the end of the day, I can tell you, if there was concrete evidence that there was malpractice or unlawful conduct on my part, the way I know I relate to the people in Jubilee, there would be no investigation. I would have been already arrested, like in Timali, for example. If there was a smoking gun. But what is a smoking gun?
Ngilu, who was ordered a 10-day closure of the land registries in Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale counties for an audit of land transactions, said she will revoke title deeds for all land found to have been acquired illegally since 1963.
You're watching Citizen Live at 1. We take a short break. We'll be back with more stories, including your business and sports. A look at your business news now. Owning a home is undoubtedly every Kenyan's dream. For most Kenyans, though, owning a home remains a prohibitively expensive affair, with even fewer Kenyans able to afford a loan to buy a house. It is against that backdrop that property industry players are now calling for a shift towards greater development of rental houses as a more viable solution to the home ownership crisis facing Kenya. James Mugerwa, the managing director of Shelter Afrique, has said, however, that this can only be achieved if basic infrastructure, supportive legislation, and ideal dispute resolution mechanisms between landlords and tenants are established. Mugerwa was speaking at a breakfast meeting in Nairobi ahead of the 2014 African Rental Housing Conference slated for October this year.
I think it's first and foremost we need to create an environment. But probably even more important, the most critical step in justice important, and it's justice that's good and to us. And it's not always necessarily the ultimate achievement by us. So it's really, I don't think we should just be focusing about the price, but we really need to create a completely suitable environment to facilitate rental housing. And again, we should also be discussing the tenants and the landlords, but the developers who need to create rental houses. We need to focus also on capital markets because these are projects which are big, long term. So it's all about getting all the key stakeholders actively aware of the opportunity that we have here, as well as the issue at hand. And I think this debate so far hasn't taken place.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Tea Development Agency has welcomed calls by the Senate Committee on Agriculture for a probe into the operations of the Mombasa tea auction. In a statement sent to newsrooms, KTDA Managing Director Lerionka Tiampati has said the probe should be carried out by an independent, credible and professional body to put to rest accusations and counter-accusations of alleged impropriety and underhand dealings in the tea trade. Responding to allegations made at the Senate committee meeting that KTDA is in the business of importing cheap teas and blending the same with Kenyan tea, Tiampati said the Mombasa tea auction is the body mandated to handle tea imported from around Africa and other origins for blending and export. He further says the law permits the blending of tea in the ratio of 65% Kenyan to 35% of other origins. Tiampati has said the Mombasa tea auction is managed by the East Africa Tea Trade Association, which represents not just Kenyan producers and traders, but also those from Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Malawi. KTDA is a managing agency for 66 tea factory companies. In the Forex report, the Kenya shilling held steady at the opening of the currency market today, with traders saying they expect it to stay in a narrow band against the dollar due to tight liquidity in the money markets. Commercial banks have quoted the shilling at 87 shillings and 72 cents buying and 87 shillings and 88 cents selling. The shilling remained largely unchanged to the euro to trade at 117 shillings and 77 cents buying, 118 shillings flat selling, but lost to the sterling pound to trade at 147 shillings and 89 cents buying, 148 shillings and 20 cents selling. On the regional front, the home unit posted mixed trading results, gaining to the Tanzanian currency to change hands at 18 shillings and 91 cents buying, 19 shillings flat selling, but losing to Uganda shilling to trade at 29 shillings and 74 cents buying, 29 shillings and 91 cents selling. We're back with all the latest in the world of sports in just a moment.